perspective on the CFPB. So if we can get Todd and Harvey to come on up front here. Todd we've known for years through the marketing meeting, and he's been in the real estate business for 27 years. Plus, Harvey, how many? We lying about somebody saying he's lying about his age. Harvey's coming to us with 38 years in the real estate business, CRS, GRI, and he's been an instructor for California Association of Realtors. And Harvey's with Wells Fargo. Thank you very much, gentlemen, and we're going to get a little bit more of the CFPB and what's going on.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So we're going to talk, Harvey's got a PowerPoint presentation he's going to go over with the rest until the changes. I know we're all excited about these changes coming up, but we're going to just work about how we become a team and get through this together. So it's not about the lender, the title company, the realtor. It's about being a team and getting through this together, and that's what this presentation is really about. So with that, I'll let Harvey get started on the PowerPoint.
Well, you know what, I was looking at the table here and I thought, boy, if this was Thursday night, Magic T's male strippers, we probably have a full house.
This is not Thursday night,
But it's not
just because I'm not wearing a
I'm
tie.
stripping, so don't worry about it.
Darn. Are you gonna be back Thursday night? Are you telling us?
All right, let's go to the first slide and we'll get started with this. I want to talk a little bit about what the CFPB stands for. So, we got Chris. There we go. Go ahead and click on it. Okay, CFPB stands for the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Most of you know about that. Go ahead and click again. It says it's an independent bureau with the Federal Reserve System that was created by the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform and Consumer Protection Act. Go ahead and one more. There are a number of consumer financial laws that are now regulated by the CFPB, such as the Truth in Lending and the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act. The rest of that last part where it talks about the Real Estate Settlement Procedures Act is an interesting part because I'm going to tell you a little bit what some scary things coming up about the CFPB in regards to the coming tsunami, the regulatory tsunami that's going to be hitting us in the near future. Okay. What they end up, what does the CFPB regulate? All these different things: bank account services, credit cards, credit reporting, debt collection. Keep going. Mortgages and money transfer. Pretty much anything that has to do with finances, the CFPB is going to be involved in. Next one. So, when does the CFPB go into effect? Well, any residential loan originated on October 1st, 2015 will be subject to new rules and forms set forth by the CFPB. However, go ahead and click. That has been delayed, as Mike had mentioned earlier, okay, up until October, which is a good thing because the way things are going right now, we need as much time as we possibly can to not only educate the realtors out there, but also to partner up with our lender partners to make sure everybody's on the same playing field in regards to the communication aspect of it, because that's what it's going to come down to in a minute. Next. Okay, so what is the penalty? If you do not go along with some of the things that CFPB is issuing, as you can see down here in the red, there can be a civil penalty ranging from $5,000 to over $1 million. And some of you have heard some scary things that's already happened to some of the local lender here. They got fined big time in regards to that. So we won't go into any more of that. Okay, so what is the American Bankers Association saying? ABA is pleased that the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau is extending the effective date to October 1st for the groundbreaking know before you owe mortgage disclosure rule, said American Bankers President and CEO Frank Keating. This extension will help protect consumers from disruptions. Okay. During a traditionally busy period for home purchases, it will also help to ensure new loan origination systems and compliance software under development by lenders and the vendors. That's a big one, that in bold print there, because that's what we're dealing with from Chicago Title on a daily basis, working with our lender partners in regards to what systems do they have in place, what systems do we have in place, because we're going through a whole retooling of our systems. Our escrow officers are going through 14 different training sessions, and we're in what's called the perfect storm as far as I'm concerned right now. We not only have big volume as far as our business, but now they're going through training and having to learn a new system with a new system being tweaked. So cut them a little slack, would you, if you're working with some of our escrow people. Thank you very much. And whom they rely on will adequately install and debug. So that's the other thing. We're going through these systems trying to make sure they're working correctly. Well, luckily, we're going to get into October now, so hopefully by that time, we're going to have all the bugs worked out and everything will flow pretty smoothly. Now, let's see what the MBA says about this. Very similar, they went down and they talked about the complexity of the rule, which impacts not just mortgage disclosures, but also the business processes behind the entire real estate transaction. Real estate's one part of it, but when you talk about the lenders and the vendors that they deal with, and when I say vendors, I'm talking about title companies mainly, the systems that they have to put in place to make sure everything flows smoothly. Because if you understand what the CFPB really wants to do, they want to have a seamless transaction. They want to have a digitally seamless transaction to where when they open the order with us, it goes through an electronic system to where when they come in and do an audit, they can look and they go, oh, you're out of compliance here, out of compliance here, out of compliance here, and guess what? Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. And then they're going to throw out fines to you. So that's what the overall goal of this has to do. Now, with that said, have any of you seen this report? This is an NAR report called the Danger Report. 180-something pages. I printed it up and went through it. And one of the things it talks about is Dodd-Frank is a train wreck. Okay? Only time will tell how much of an impact the CFPB will have on real estate brokers, resulting in increased costs due to compliance, increased risk for small brokers with limited capital, increased scrutiny on marketing agreements, and the increased risk of agents moving to firms with strict compliance in place. So what do we know now? Is that the failure to comply at any level is not an option. Okay, so thank God they didn't move it to October. And the penalties for failure will be costly. Those who suggest that real estate service providers are not vulnerable under the financial service provision need to remember that there has been little or no effective RESPA enforcement by HUD over the past decade. Okay, remember when I talked about how they took over, CFPB took over that? Well, now they're going to be the ones that's going to be going out there. And here's the scary part. Most brokerage companies are either ignorant of the fact or believe they are in compliance with CFPB and RESPA regulations. However, most are likely in violation thereof. Okay? CFPB, when they find somebody, they take the money and they put it back into their bank account so they can go out and hire more people to go out and look for more violations. It's a scary entity. And Gibb and I were talking about this earlier. They're the only company, or the only government agency right now that can walk into your office and shut you down without a court order or anything. Okay? So they're kind of a loose cannon out there, and we're trying to deal with them the very best we can. All right. So
and real quick, the CFPB has shoppers that call lenders to make sure that they're in compliance. They're already doing it now. So for all of my lender friends out there, be aware of these shoppers that might be coming in, applying for mortgages, and making sure that you're compliant. And I'm sure your companies are working on this to be compliant as well. So just so you know what's going on our side.
So anyhow, as you know, the forms have changed. We're going from the good faith and the early TILA to the new loan estimate. The HUD one and the final TILA form will be going to the new closing disclosure. And again, if you look at these two forms side by side, they're very similar, which is good for the consumer, because that's what it's all about, is about transparency. So at the beginning, they can look at their loan disclosure, and at the end, they can look at their closing disclosure, look at them side by side, and they make sense. So they can really take the time to do that. As you heard earlier, I started in business in 1977. And back in those days, when we got documents drawn by the title company, we had time to give them to our client, for the client to review, okay, what a concept, for them to review the numbers there, and then, after reviewing them, then they could sign their documents. Well, basically, that's what we're trying to do now with the time frame. So you want to talk a little bit about the time frame?
Yeah, that's exactly what it's about. And basically, I don't know if any of you have seen this, the loan estimate is being replaced, or the good faith estimate until is being replaced by the loan estimate by the lender. And this loan estimate is going to match and mirror the closing statement that's going to come out from the title company. So that, and one part of the Dodd-Frank rule is that they want the borrower to be able to shop and understand that their fees look exactly the same throughout the whole process. When you had the initial good faith estimate, and then you had the HUD, they didn't look anything alike, and the borrowers are confused. So now what they want to do is make sure that we're all compliant and that everything looks the same from the beginning to the end, so that there's no surprises at the end. And the biggest thing for lenders and for the realtors is that there's no changes during that process. Now, if we've got lender credits, seller credits, things like that that affect the APR, this could start the whole process over and delay us by 3 days. So if you've got changes to the purchase price or anything like that, get that in as soon as possible so that we can redisclose that to the borrowers up front. And then once we get through this, I'll talk about what we can do to help expedite some of these 3-day delays and these review periods like Harvey was talking about.
Perfect. So really bottom line, what that comes back to the realtors that are in here, let's go to the timeline, because that's what it's all, the key is the timeline in regards to getting these documents signed, get them delivered to the consumer, the time frames for them to review it, and for us to be able to actually draw documents and sign the person off in this situation. So as you can see up here, it looks blurry for me. Does everybody see that okay? I know
Looks
I'm
blurry to
blurry,
me.
but it's still blurry to me. Okay? As you see up here, like say on a Monday, the 3-day delivery period, what the rule says is that the lender can send out closing disclosure statement on Monday by mail if they want to, or they can email it or whatever they want to do. It won't be by mail, I know, but you know. So that's the 3-day period goes into effect. So then you've got Thursday, where you have another 3-day, the 3-day waiting period for supposedly the consumer has it by that time. They can be reviewing it, looking through it. And Sunday does not count, okay? But Saturday does, unless it's a holiday. Then the first day that we can get documents to sign off would be on Monday. And that's on a regular residential purchase. If it's a refinance, of course, then you got the 3-day right of rescission after that goes into effect there. So as you can see, we have anywhere from 8 to possibly 14 days of time frame there that we're going to have to be dealing with on a consistent basis. So with that said, as far as you're concerned from a real estate standpoint, when you look at your time frames for your escrow, okay, so I was up at the Pacific Union last week, and I said, if you write a 45-day escrow, and they all laughed at me. They go, tell us can we still close in 21 days? So I said, well, let's think of it this way. We need 8 to 14 days at the end of the transaction, whatever it may be, to get this done. So if you've got a 30-day transaction going on, figure out you're going to have all of your stuff into us by the 16th to the 22nd day. Does that make sense? Everybody understand that? And then if you have any changes after that, the whole process starts all over again. So.
Yeah, like Harvey said, so the biggest points are the initial application stage. So once the borrower comes to us, and hopefully you're getting your borrowers pre-approved, we have 3 days to get those initial disclosures out to them by either face-to-face, mail, or email. Now, and I don't want this to be about Wells Fargo, but most lenders are going to do electronic delivery of disclosures so that we can start to collect the fees for the appraisal as soon as possible. Because once the borrower receives their disclosures, they have to be able to review it and call you back and say that they intend to proceed with the transaction. So they have to acknowledge, and we have a system in our place where they go in and acknowledge that they want to proceed with the transaction. At that point, we can collect the fee and order the appraisal. Now, if you've got situations where you get borrowers that don't have email, or they're out of the country or whatever, this could delay the upfront process. And this is key with working with your local lender, is to get with your realtor partners and talk to them about your processes on each and every one of your transactions so you can set the expectations up front. I know we don't want to close in 21 days, but each transaction is unique, correct?
Yeah.
Then once we get through the whole process, we've got to get the documents, and we're going to work early in the closing procedures with our title companies to get this closing estimate out to the borrowers so they can take 3 days to review it during the cooling off period. And the other thing that Frank Dodd, the rule wants, they want them to be able to shop. And there's going to be a list on here, if you've seen this, there's a list of services that the borrowers, and it says on here, they can shop for these services, and then over here it says they cannot shop for these services. So it's imperative that the loan officer talk to the borrower up front, explain these documents to them up front so they understand what the process is going to be going forward. Because this is going to be a big change from sending out the disclosures and the borrower's like, yeah, I want to go forward, let's just do it. And then next thing you know, we're going to get docs in title and we're going to sign this afternoon, we're going to fund tomorrow morning. Those days are going to be over. So setting the expectation up front is going to be imperative with these buyers and sellers.
So 2 other things. Number 1, can this first 3-day time frame be shortened? Okay? Yeah, it can. Okay, depending on how the lender wants to handle it. Some people have been talking about DocuSign or whatever it may be. Once they get confirmation back, then if they can do it all on a Monday, then the 3-day starts on a Tuesday. If they get that confirmation back. So yeah, it can be shortened by a couple of days. So that's number 1. Number 2, in regards to the closing statement, you're going to find, and this is something very, very important that you've got to educate your client to early on when you're working with a borrower. On the closing statement, it's going to have in here that title insurance is optional.
Owner title insurance or lender title?
Owner title insurance. Now, let's think about that. If at the beginning you write an offer and the offer says, you know, get an owner's title policy and this and everything else, we get down to closing, they get the closing, they're getting ready to get signed off, and they look and they go, oh, I didn't know that was optional. Oh, I don't need to pay that money. Okay? What have we just done? Just screwed the whole thing up and we're starting all over again. So by all means, talk to your clients early on, educate them early on about that, and say, look, as far as I'm concerned, there's no option. You need title insurance, and explain to them why you need title insurance. If you don't know, talk to Paul Johnson, talk to Sally Andreas, talk to your marketing people. They've got all kinds of good information for you to share with your clients to make sure they understand the importance of having title insurance before they close.
But at that point, isn't that fee already in the document?
Pardon?
Isn't that fee already in the document, or change the document?
You can choose to not pay it, who would not do
The
it?
fees are, we as the lender will disclose the estimated fee, but the actual documents that come from title will say this is an optional fee. And on ours, it's not going to say that, it's going to say that you can shop for these fees, because as a buyer or consumer, you can shop for the title company. So I think, like Harvey said, is talk to your local title reps, and maybe have the buyers or the sellers, well, mostly the buyers, talk to the escrow officer early in the transaction to talk about. I mean, most lenders talk about what title fees are and what title insurance is, but make sure they understand what it is, so that when they, like you said, when they get there, they say, well, this is optional, I'm not buying it. Well, what does it do? What does it protect you of? That's the part that you want to disclose up front.
I have one question. How do you want us to handle this?
Are we getting questions right now? Hold on, Vicki. Vicki.
How do you want us to handle inspections? Because, you know, a lot of people don't have their inspections before, they have them after. Now, is it going to be 3-day periods for inspections, and it's going to go crazy with that?
No.
How is it going to be handled?
Inspections has nothing to do with this time frame at all. Okay?
It won't hurt this, but it
No.
changes the money value at the end.
No, that's why I'm saying if you've got a 30-day escrow, you've got to get all that stuff done within 16 to 22 days, to where when you call in terms to the title company and we get that information to the lender, we can get this closing disclosure out in time.
So you're saying the first and the last need to be the same, and if they're not the same, because you have to give $5,000 for a termite problem, how are you going to do that? Because it's not going to be the same, it's going to be different.
So you're talking about, so basically what they want is make sure that the APR doesn't change in this process.
They couldn't hear the question.
So she's asking about, what about the seller credits? Say you get an inspection report back and you need to give the buyer $5,000 credit towards their closing costs. This has to do with the APR changing. If the APR, and I have a situation right now where we came across that, where the seller's going to give them $10,000 in closing cost credit. Now in your situation, $5,000 in this area is not going to change the loan that much. So that's going to continue, but we want to get that disclosed up front, because the underwriter has to see it, just as we do now, and the appraiser has to see it and make note of
You
it.
have 16 days, you're saying.
Correct. But let's go back to the other scenario that I'm in right now, where you're getting $10,000 and there's not enough closing cost credit. So what we're going to do is we're going to buy down the rate. So we're going to take the additional funds and we're going to buy down the rate, and then I've got to redisclose, but I've got a 60-day escrow because it's on the East Coast, thank goodness. So, yes, be sure you're getting your inspections done early. If you know anything about the property as the seller or the selling agent, let the buying agents know up front so that you can get this expedited. And again, we can only push as fast as we can based on these new rules. We can't change them. So please be patient. They are new rules. We're all going to have to learn them.
Was there any other questions?
Just a quick question, does any of this apply for cash?
No.
There's a solution, all cash buyers.
All cash buyers and then refinance later and get refinance.
That's it,
back.
yeah.
Any other questions? We've just got one more minute left. And Harvey and myself and the rest of the lenders in the house will be here after the meeting if you have further questions. But again, please partner up with your local lenders, because, and I just talked to one of my agents, the buyer's like, oh, I'm going through some internet company. Good luck with that, right? Some internet companies are good, I don't want to say anything. But partner up with your local one and set up a plan. Meet with them, find out what their plan is for their company to get this procedure done up front so that we don't have these delays. And understand the expectations with your buyers. I would recommend meeting with the buyers with your agent when you sit down and take that application or start the process of making an offer. Okay? Thank you very much.
Thank you.